coming at you live from our studio in the heart of Roseville, California. As always, I'm your host, Matt, and with me are...
Andrew.
Roger.
And this is the Cryptid vs. Cryptid podcast. Play that funky music.
We're back for episode number 6. Feels good.
It feels like it's been forever because of we didn't do any research for episode 5.
Yeah, that
so
was
kind of weird coming back into it.
It was a complex episode, though. Even if we didn't do any research, I mean, having our first guest was cool. So
it was a lot of fun. It was definitely.
Deverin's definitely a cool guy. So.
Oh yeah, and he's always willing to come back on. But it's probably either my first or second favorite episode because that and then everything with. Goatman, that episode was just
that episode was cool, but I mean it's number 6, so
I know it's weird. We finally hit that. You either quit now at this point, or you just keep on fucking going.
And we're still fucking going.
Yeah, but yeah, is there anything we want to get out of the way?
We are in 200th place for Sweden, right?
Yeah, we got this email from this weird podcast thing, and I was like, this might be a scam. I went, did some research, found out it was legit, and yeah, so I guess they keep track of all our stats over all the countries. So yeah, we're like 200 something in Sweden in the fiction podcast.
We're listed on a chart in Sweden. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
To see.
Well, fuck, we forgot. To
I know. I was looking at this.
And with that out of the way, let's hop into the episode. Now, who are we covering?
Oklahoma Octopus versus Nessie. That's our big brawlers for today. Aquatic, so we're going right into the water.
Yeah, and with you saying that, you guys will notice as we progress through these 4 rounds of fights, there's going to be a little theme going in this time. We're not going to say it deliberately, but you should be able to pick up on it pretty quick. So who do we want to hop in with first?
I guess it's Oklahoma Octopus time.
Oklahoma Octopus. Right. Who wants to take us away with some Oklahoma Octopus history?
Hit me up with the history.
All right.
Here we go. Little is known about this cryptid. It is said to be a very large octopus that inhabits many of the freshwater lakes in the state of Oklahoma, such as Lake Thunderbird, Lake Oolaga, and Lake Tenkiller. Many people use unexplained drownings and deaths in these lakes as evidence of the existence of this strange cryptid. One commonality that ties these lakes together, besides being freshwater, are that they're all man-made. Could this lead to the idea that the cryptid may also be man-made, or is it something far darker? Also, I've got a fun fact here. In 2017, an octopus was found in Thunderbird Lake, but it was later found that the octopus was from a buffet. Someone put this octopus in the lake as a prank.
Yeah, some dude found it and claimed that it was the Oklahoma Octopus, but little did he know, he just got goofed.
Yeah, he's like, instead of eating this, I'm going to throw this small octopus that couldn't really hurt anyone into the lake.
And also, another fun fact, I didn't do a whole bunch of research into the lakes, but Lake Thunderbird seems to be named after another cryptid, the Thunderbird.
I mean, one day.
Yeah, one day.
Right
He'll
now,
still clap Mothman, but one day. All right, and with our brief history of the very interesting Oklahoma octopus out of the way, let's hop into some stories, if there are any.
I mean, I don't have anything specific. Roger, you got something?
No. This one, it's pretty basic. It's just
a
bunch of reports of drownings, and then it's blamed on Oklahoma octopus. So
yeah.
And the only thing else is that since there's 3 lakes that this thing could be at, is that there's multiple of them. There's not just the one in one lake. And it's not traveling across 3 miles difference.
Yeah, if you are looking for any more information, check out the Lost Tapes episode.
Yeah, they have it up on YouTube. I think me and Roger both watched it. Matt might have skimmed it. I mean,
I skimmed through it.
It's one of the biggest things on it, which is not the greatest because it also has very little to do with the actual octopus.
The funny thing is that's what kind of raised it in popularity. That's why everyone knows about it, is because of the Lost Tapes. Otherwise, no one else would really know about it besides people in Oklahoma.
Yeah, this cryptid is almost kind of like the chupacabra in the fact that it's not really seen. It's more just people talk about it, but it hasn't gained a popularity at all in the way that the chupacabra has.
It's also got a lot of similarities to the megaconda, as there is hardly any information, and all the articles you read come from one source, which I found this time. Take a guess as to what it is.
The Lost Tapes episode? No.
No, you're right. It comes from the website where they... where does that show come from?
It's like Discovery or
Discovery.
something?
Yeah, it's Discovery.
It comes from the Discovery Lost Tapes webpage. Because I went onto the Cryptid, because there's a Cryptid Wikipedia page, and sometimes I'll go there just to skim through to find.
I go there
sources.
to just look up like new cryptids that we might bring up.
And so, I'm going through looking for other sources, and really there's only this one link. Click on it, go to the Discovery page, and it's just a copy and paste from the Discovery page. Mm-hmm. Which is just disappointing. That's straight up plagiarism. And when I write up the histories, I get information mostly from one website, maybe a few paragraphs from others, but I don't plagiarize it. It's not that hard. I should just take what I wrote and throw it on the Wikipedia page, and it'd be way better.
This guy is definitely more word of mouth than anything. This is pretty much how it goes.
And that's what really sucks, I think, about a lot of the not-so-popular cryptids. Because obviously, the more popular you are, the more sightings you're going to have, which is more story, more stuff for us to cover, more fun to theorize about. Since the Oklahoma octopus isn't really this big, and its main source of popularity is from the Lost Tapes, that's really all you get is the Lost Tapes.
It's hard, too, because this type of cryptid is really only a cryptid because it drowns people. That's really the main thing that, otherwise it would just be an octopus in a freshwater lake, but it also seeks out and drowns people, and that's the thing that makes it
eats them. That's how it survives.
Yeah, drowns them and then does whatever it wants to them. But
yeah, we can talk credibility at the end, because I definitely have some holes to poke with this one, besides the fact that, we'll save that. So, with a brief history and stories, quote unquote, out of the way, let's hop into stats, characteristics, and abilities, which I always have out of order from how we actually go through them. So let's start with characteristics. What I have down is, so I don't know if it's is it in the Lost Tapes episode where they say the body's 8 feet long?
I think it's in there. They reference it in pretty much all the material that has to do with it, which is 2 things, but that it's horse-sized.
Horse-sized,
yeah.
So I delved into this because whether or not it's believable, I still wanted to be as close to what it would actually be as I could. So, horse-sized body. That'd be about 8 feet. Tentacles are way longer than the actual body.
That's what I was going to ask. If it's horse-sized, is that the head part is horse-sized? And then the tentacles go longer than that? Okay.
That's how I presumed it.
That's how I thought it too.
Yeah. I had to do a lot of research, specifically into I believe they call it the Pacific something octopus. Biggest breed of octopus in the world. So I did a lot of comparison from that body size to their tentacle size. And what I've been able to get is the horse-sized body, about 8 feet, which would lead to the tentacles being about 3 to 3.5 times longer, usually for an octopus. So its tentacles are going to be about 24 to 30 feet long.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then you bring in the body size, this thing's almost close to 40 feet long. And then I have 32 feet, but it can vary in its complete length a little bit higher. And the last thing I have down for characteristics are the suction cups. They, probably be a foot and a half long. And the usual strength of these things for the Pacific octopus, each suction cup has the strength of a 200-pound man. So you can only imagine the strength for the suction cups on something like this.
And octopus in general, I think, are super strong anyway, because they're supposed to grip things and then pull them.
And then you also have to take in the fact that I didn't put it down, but it also has the beak, which are very, very strong in octopi. And with that, characteristics out of the way, you guys want to add anything?
No, you pretty much said everything I would probably say for it.
No,
So.
Do we want to put rubbery skin in there or something like that? Just as the fact that it's, I don't know. That's the one other thing that I'd give it, just because all octopi have a weird film or something on their skin that makes it kind of rubbery. But
we'll throw that down there because it'll give him some kind of advantage when it comes to defense and in the fight itself. Okay, next we have abilities. I didn't think of anything until this second. Do you think it would be able to shoot ink?
I just thought of that.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so that was where I didn't cover in my octopi research, was specifically what kind of octopi shoot ink. But obviously this would be a special case.
I'm going to do a search real quick.
All right, we're going to do a quick cut reel here because there is something else I want to add into this episode that I totally forgot. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
All right, and we're back from the break. Looks like it does shoot ink, as we're giving pretty much all of Octopus, aside from like 2 of the genus, shoot ink. So I think we're going to give it to this guy.
Okay, so we got ink shooting down as one ability. Is there anything else that we think we can afford to it?
Not really. I think its characteristics already give it a pretty good power, so it doesn't really need to tech anything.
All right, cool. Now, let's hop into the most intricate part. Let's go with stats. What are we thinking for intelligence? Now, I'm pretty sure our octopi, aren't they very intelligent creatures in their own right?
I believe so. I believe octopi are pretty intelligent. I was just to throw out there to get us started on it. I was going to say maybe 8, maybe 7.
I feel like every time we have the same stats.
We have the same breakout of this. I'm for real.
I don't know. I was leaning more towards 7, but 8 can work too. It's kind of just
Well, I was thinking 7.5, but you know how we don't do halves on this, so
you're rounding up?
Yeah, or down. It depends.
Well, I think we're in a crossroads here because I was thinking 7.
If you're both thinking 7, I am totally fine with going 7. I will say, now that we know what we do at the 5th episode of these, we know that we might come back to this. Yeah. But I think for now, 7's probably where I'm going to land too.
So a quick plug. Obviously, as Andrew just said, all stats are subject to change by the 5th episode. So if you have any problem with our stats and what we give anybody, feel free to send us an email. Stick around for the email address at the end.
Don't email us about the first 5. Those stats or the first 8 cryptids. Those stats are locked in. So
yeah. We won't be going back to any of those for any kind of changes. Those are set in stone. The 4 or the 8 coming out from this point moving forward are subject to change until the 5th episode.
All right.
Or the 10th episode. All right. So we got 7. What are we thinking for power? This guy's going to be extremely strong, which is why I wanted to bring something up. I think for creatures of a certain size, we're going to have to set a new bracket for strength, because obviously the larger you are, most of the time the stronger you're going to be, and obviously this guy's going to have some very high fucking strength.
I was going to say let's give him a 10 just because we gave the Megaconda a 10
and Bigfoot.
But I like the idea of ranking them based on their size. That just brings into question all the other stats. Do those alter in any way?
We aren't changing those guys at this point.
All right.
But I think for at least strength, taking in size into this, for at least these extra
it's almost like power
creatures.
Level scaling that we're doing here, just because. So are we going, if we did do this, are we going human level and then a creature larger, or?
Yeah, I think so. Well, no, because if we do go human level, a 10 would be human level. And obviously,
I meant as human size, sorry.
Human size. I think 7 foot would be like a 10 in that regard then, and then anything larger than that.
So maybe we do it in the sense of the first class is essentially like humanoid. Yeah. And so anything from like the size of a small child all the way up to, a 7 foot tall basketball player is in that first bracket. And then we move up to something larger, like a large animal class,
like
or something
an
like
elephant
that.
or something.
Yeah, like something like that. So we go maybe, very large dog, horse, all the way up to like elephant, giraffe level. And then after that, we maybe go up to like a Titan level. Someone's like giant.
Yeah, if we ever get to Titan level creatures or cryptids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll throw down in the header for this like extra large size creature. So we'll take that into account for now. So with this new system, what are we thinking?
I'm still
are we? And a good thing to also straighten out now is what on the smaller scale as a 10 is equated to what on this next scale up.
I think a 10 would probably be around a 6 or a 7. Maybe, I don't know, maybe
I think we
go
should
5.
get. I think we should get a significant number, like a literal, like this is what it is. That way we know what barrier they're breaching.
Okay, what are you thinking for 5?
I like 5
human
just
size
because
breaking that 10 bracket would be 5 in the
the-
extra large creature scale.
I like that because it's baseline, it's in the middle, so now you're going even farther than that.
Yeah. So what are we thinking? Keep in mind that all the suction cups are going to have extreme strength on their own individually.
That's why I'm still thinking like an 8 or 9 would still work for him.
And then these things are also known for ripping things, and their very strong jaws and their beak.
I like 8.
8. I think I can go with an 8. What about you, Ryder?
Yeah.
All right. And now, moving on to defense, we have to keep in mind the rubbery skin is going to give it at least some, I don't want to say increased defense, but it would definitely affect the defense in a way. Probably block off some like non-lethal attacks. So
I think also that how many arms it has. At that point, it's also defense because it just can. If one arm misses, the other one comes in and just wraps it around at that point.
You think like strategically,
Yeah.
defense-wise, it's got enough options to combat anything that's coming at it.
Yeah, and it has to have a high enough defense to think, okay, well, this is what I do next.
and if we are taking the extra large creature scale into account for defense, baseline would also be 5 for a 10 defense for a normal size creature.
I don't know if we have to do that just because like a 10 defense is really just like you're literally like steel, you know?
Nearly impenetrable. All right, then we don't have to change the defense.
I'd probably go with the 7.
A 7.
I want to go with an 8 just because it still has that skilled ink. And that gives it an evasion, which is something I'd put in a defense, you know, something that's evasive maneuver-wise,
I
but
almost
it
feel
still
like
gives
that'd be
it
more
like...
of like a stealth kind of ability rather
Yeah.
than defense.
Yeah, I was thinking more like clouding the enemy's vision, but, you know.
It can just fly into multiple categories because it's like stealth, also mobility, and just get around.
But adding to it, I think that gives it enough overall stat buff to raise its defense an 8.
So you two are both making an 8?
Yeah, I think I can go with an 8.
Yeah, I think I'll hop on that 8 train then. Okay, with defense out of the way, we're moving to mobility. Obviously I think it's going to have decent mobility, but I don't think it's going to be in the upper echelon of mobility for sure.
I'm with you on that one, just because I know there's faster things, especially in water. There's probably a few faster, quite a few faster
and
things.
its size is definitely going to hold it back from its mobility.
It's the same thing with Megacon. Megacon probably can get farther, but it's also 130 feet long.
Yeah, so it's going to be slower.
It's
It's just body is able to cover such a large distance itself.
6 or 7, maybe.
I want to go with the 6.
Yeah, I'm thinking 6. I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's still able to move in the water better than, you know, a normal human, but I think it's still really held back.
Definitely. And now, HP. I'm thinking, taken into the extra large size, do you think this would affect HP? Because it's going to have a lot more body, so it's going to have, I think, the body size would definitely affect the HP threshold.
Whereas power is more something to scale it against other cryptids that we've done in the past. HP is more just against the cryptid it's fighting.
Okay.
If it's going to be able to survive. So I don't know if giving it an extra class is really going to do anything, because it's still going to be how does it scale up against this other creature that's also in the same weight class, you know? I don't know, just for argument's sake, I don't know if giving it an extra class is really necessary or not, but...
Yeah. And I mean, it's definitely something that we can take into account when other matchups against other cryptids comes. But until then, yeah, I think we can just leave it as our normal scale for now.
Yeah, because like we said before, a 10 on HP is something that you're almost always regenerating, or like there's no way
There's
for you to
almost no end
lose.
to your amount of health.
So that, and in scale wise, that's still, size is like great because you have a little bit more, but I don't think it's infinite, you know?
So I'm just going to throw one out there. What are you guys thinking for 7? Giving it a 7 for HP.
I did like the 7, honestly. I was thinking...
Yeah, that's what I was jumping between, but 7 probably works better now that I think about it.
You know what? I kind of like 8 in the fact that I'm pretty sure if you chop off any of its tentacles, it can still grow those back, and that's not going to be huge, like a huge detriment to it.
It still takes a while for those. It's not like
Yeah. But
But
I'm
even
not
though
sure
I
if,
still think we should attribute it when determining HP.
yeah, I'm not sure how much damage that does to it as a whole if you like were to remove 1 or 2 tentacles, you know.
So you're thinking 8 now instead of 7?
I just wanted to throw that out there. I still like 7 though.
Even with that, I'm still on the 7 train myself. Yeah. All right, then I'll swing with the 7. And lastly, stealth. Now, something we didn't attribute to this was camouflage, because I know there are certain breeds of squid that can do that. Octopi, sorry. And it's not something we attributed, because I don't think it's really I don't really think it's a commonality in all octopi.
Yeah, that's another, I don't think that's as shared of a trait as the ink thing, so I'm fine with not giving it stealth. Mostly because even if it's hiding, I'm not sure if our contender's gonna need to, seek it out anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works.
And another thing is, when it kills, it seems to be pretty obvious. These drownings happen, people can pinpoint what's the cause or what they believe the cause is. If
the lost tapes is the main thing we're going with, that was all filmed and all the people were watching while the other people got drowned. It's this guy's not really hiding anything.
No.
Unless he's, hiding under the water, but...
I'm going to throw out another number, 4.
I was going to say 5.
I was going to say 5 as well.
Just because I think the ink thing...
If we go back to the lost tapes, when he first sees it, no one else sees it. It still kind of goes without anyone knowing it's there. It's still stealthy in its own regard, but it's not like That's
another thing that I can think we can attribute to just it being underwater versus its prey being on land,
Yeah, for sure. All right, then. I'm fine with giving it a 5. With you guys bringing up the ink thing, that totally slipped my mind, and I think that would definitely tribute towards the stealth. And with all this out of the way, let's hop in to our next contender. Anybody want to take the history, and you guys want me to have this one?
I think you're good on this one.
All right, cool. Now, let's introduce our next fighter, the Loch Ness Monster, aka Nessie. The history of the Loch Ness Monster starts around 565 AD, with ancient writings from the Pict talking about a large creature that attacked a swimmer and almost attacked another before it was ordered to go back by St. Columba. After this account, not many sightings occurred until the 1930s. Sightings started picking up after the construction of a road near Loch Ness, where the creature was sighted more near the road and close to the shore. The sightings continued to grow, and so did the hoaxes. The famous surgeon's photograph, taken in 1934 by Robert Kenneth Wilson, was one of the biggest pieces of evidence supporting the existence of the cryptid until 1944, where it was proven to just be a hoax. To this day, Nessie is still a very popular and profitable creature in pop culture, netting the Scottish economy roughly $80 million annually. And bringing up the surgeon's photograph real quick, have you guys ever seen it?
Yeah, of course.
It's probably the most popular.
I think it's almost the most popular, cryptid-related media out there.
It's definitely on par with the
at least on par with the Patterson-Gimlin film.
I think it's a little bigger, honestly.
I still think it's bigger, but it's at least on par with that.
I would almost agree with that, except for the fact that the Patterson-Gimlin, the Bigfoot, when he's looking over, that's like the kind of silhouette Bigfoot you see on everything.
In America.
That's true.
But whereas the Loch Ness Monster is pretty much, the cryptid heard around the world, basically.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Sasquatch-esque creatures are seen all across the world, too.
That's true.
Albeit they have their specialities, given their different environments they live in. But I mean, that's an after-hours conversation. But the photograph, I'm pretty sure all he did was just glue, a long piece of plastic onto, the bottom of a boat, like a toy plastic boat. Took the photograph.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, and I think they've also been oh yeah, it was a stick. And
yeah.
Just kind of put it up there.
Yeah, it could have been the end of a log, I think was a really good...
And I mean, the photo's super grainy, black and white, so obviously it's easy to see why people fell for it. And I mean, this is also 1930s, when information didn't get around as quickly or nearly as popularly as information gets around today. Yeah. But I mean, they did nip it pretty quickly. 10 years, that's all it took for them to debunk it.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is just,
Well, when they debunked it, the guy that took that picture was on his deathbed, and he's like, yeah, that's fake. And that's how everyone figured it out.
Man, he could have been so savage and just taken it to his grave.
Yeah.
Nobody would have been the wiser.
I mean, I think after a little while they would have been the wiser. I don't think it would have taken too much longer.
All right. Do we want to get into any stories?
I don't have any specific stories for this one, so this is all you guys.
Yeah, there's no real stories of him that I know of, but the first sighting was...
I'm sure some Scottish natives probably have.
Yeah. But the main ones that you hear are the first sighting where he ran across the road, And then there was another one that had to do with these 3 firefighters, and they were trying to lure Nessie out. And so what they did is they made a paper mache Nessie that was a female, put some cologne on it, and put eyelashes on it, and put it in the water.
Yeah, that only works if Nessie is a male.
Yeah, and that's what they thought. They were like, Nessie's a male. And so it's Scotland, so everyone's drinking. So they probably got drunk.
I mean, there was
all right,
probably...
it's time to catch Nessie, so let's do this. Go in here, and then put it in. And it's paper mache, so obviously it's not lasting long.
Yeah, it's probably not a clear-headed decision.
It flattened out, and that was that.
All right, so I actually do have a little bit of a fun fact / story to share. So first off, thank you, Justin. He got me the Encyclopedia of Cryptozoology for my 21st birthday, which is just, I've only read like 10 pages, like the introduction and the first couple pages in here, but it's very awesome. And one of the first things I read actually had to do in part with the Loch Ness Monster. It's the Academy of Applied Scientists. So I'll just read this little snippet out of the book real quick. Founded at Belmont, Massachusetts in March 1963, the Academy of Applied Scientists is a nonprofit, tax-exempt educational group whose stated goal is to ensure that innovation continues to flourish as the essence of human spirit and the foundation of the world's freedom and prosperity. From its present headquarters in Concord, New Hampshire, the AAS collaborates with various other foundations and public schools to promote scientific education at every grade level. Since 1970, founder and president Robert Rines has led a series of expeditions to Loch Ness, Scotland, where AAS members obtained some of the most dramatic photographs and sonar tracks of Nessie yet recorded. In 1992, an AAS team also participated in the search for Bigfoot, but without results. Cryptozoology is not the group's primary concern, and indeed receives no mention on the AAS internet website, but its contributions to lake monster research can scarcely be exaggerated. So yeah, they have a full-on group looking for the Loch Ness Monster.
There's more to that one, but there's also, so I forgot to say this, but there was some other like guy that was like, if you catch Nessie, you get like 2,000 pounds of the cash, which would equate to I think 2 million in US.
No, pounds is definitely not that much more.
Well,
than
this is
that.
1930s.
Oh, the 1930s.
Yeah,
adjusting for inflation. Yeah, probably.
And then so lately, the only thing that we've had, I think it was back in 2016. They're gonna go down into the lake and probe it and find what could be proof of Nessie. And so they're like, oh yeah, we have 3 things that are like Nessie, and then there's one that could maybe be like it.
So 2016 they found like 3 things.
They were supposed to start filming it, so I don't know what's going on. I didn't do enough research to see if that was actually what they were doing. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard throughout my time looking into cryptozoology, there's been a lot of expeditions out to Loch Ness to try and find proof through various different research methods. There's this one research method that's gaining popularity over the last 10 and 20 years where they're able to scan, I don't know if it's scan or a certain method, but they're able to detect like all the living creatures in a certain area, ones that we haven't seen, ones that we have seen, and they did it in Loch Ness to no avail. Mm-hmm. They didn't really find anything that could have led to proof of the Loch Ness monster.
And I'm pretty sure that's a lot of the Loch Ness stuff too, is that like the fact that Nessie has like hidden, like caves or some sort of network that's also in the lake that he can go in and out of as well. I think that's a few of the stories at least probably have something to do with that. So
yeah, no. And can we just talk about the Nessie popularity? $80 million annually. That's like insane.
That's some serious tourist trap shit.
And yeah, just in Scotland, it's fucking crazy. That also leads to just cryptids being used as pop culture phenomena to gain profit.
Yeah, and that just increases the amount of hoaxes. So
yeah, which it's cool. I want to get my cryptid plushies and cryptid posters and stuff, but it just hurts credibility after a certain point. And with that out of the way, let's hop into stats, characteristics, and abilities.
Never do it the way we do it, huh?
No. I don't have a lot here, gonna be honest. Characteristics, all I have is plesiosaur-like, and it's 20 feet long, from what I was able to gather.
Yeah.
That's like the general consensus of him. it's the plesiosaurus.
Yeah.
I also want to make amends to my previous statement. I think we're probably going to have to scale this up a little bit for the larger class. I think we probably should do like horsed a 2-story house or something, just because after hearing about how big the octopus was, I was like, yeah, this is a lot bigger than an elephant. Yeah, so I think it's like a normal, like 2-3-story house is probably the limit of the next tier.
But yeah, I mean, it's just plesiosaur-like, so just your typical plesiosaur dinosaur look, long neck, fins, just the basic stuff. I didn't really find anything special. It is able to go on land. I don't know if we want to throw that into abilities or whatnot. But
I think a lot of the common reports are that it can traverse land, but not as quick as it would
definitely
water.
not as quick as it would be in the water.
And fighting against this octopus, I don't think it's going to need to go on land anyway. So
not unless it's using some kind of escape tactic. And with that, any abilities we want to attribute to Nessie?
I don't think there's anything special ability-wise that we can give this guy.
The only thing that the people theorize about is that the holes that he goes through are interdimensional travel. And that's
I don't think that's like
that's
powers.
big
That's a
We're
huge.
doing like Kong, Godzilla, Middle Earth stuff here.
Yeah, so
Whoa! Spoilers for the people that haven't seen the movie. Come on.
Oh, come on.
everyone knows that that's where it's going.
Okay, so now special abilities. Nessie's looking
A little bare bones right now.
looking like Nessie's looking for a white flag at the moment. Okay, now let's hop into some stats. What are we thinking for intelligence? I'm not thinking very high here.
I'm also thinking pretty low. I'm swimming around maybe a 4, 5.
I don't want to go that low. I'm still thinking like a 6.
The one thing I'll attribute to its intelligence are the tunnels and pathways and using that to evade people.
Are we giving it the tunnels and pathways? Is that like final answer?
That'll come up, but I mean, just going in from the research we've done, it using the tunnels and pathways shows at least some kind of intelligence. It's not just swimming in circles all day.
It could be a pattern thing too. I mean, a lot of fish
It's
move
also,
in patterns
if we go back
instinctively.
to one of those stories, was it monks or something they were trying to go out to get in the middle of a boat. There was a boat in the middle of the lake, and the monk had to go swim out to it. And then the one monk was like, "Hey, stop!" when Nessie was going, and then he listened to it, and Nessie went off.
Yeah, the Saint Columba. Yeah, I don't know if that's the grace of God on his side or if it's just intelligence from the cryptid. But even if it is the grace of God, that still I think would show some kind of intelligence to a higher degree. So I don't want to go as low as a 4. I think maybe a 5, but I still think it'd be at least 6.
6. I'm fine with going to a 6 too.
I mean, I definitely don't think it's as intelligent as the octopus, but I definitely think it's not, dare I say, retarded. Don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I did anyways. With intelligence out of the way, let's hop into some power. I don't think it really has any impressive feats of power. It is able to kill humans, but I mean, so are all the cryptids we cover here.
I don't know. Are we going to jump this guy up onto the next scale? I think we kind of have to, just
because of size. I think we have to. But is he high on that scale?
I'd say
I don't
so.
think so.
5 is like breaking the 10 barrier.
That would be
right?
10 barrier, yeah.
So I think he's either like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I don't know. What are you going to say?
I don't want to go as high as a 7. I think 6 is fair, and I don't want to put him at a 5 either because I think that'd be too low. Just given his size, he'd have to already be at a 10 to be on this scale for our previous scale. So at bare minimum, he would be a 5, but I think he's at least a 6.
I was going to say 6 as well. And I think we can go lower than a 5 on this scale if he's fighting someone that's on the same scale. I think that it's okay to like give one of them like a 3 or something like that if he's just like super lanky or something like that. But I think 6 is right about where I'd want to put him too. I don't think he's really, busting that barrier too hard.
Yeah. Okay, so rocking with the 6, let's hop into some defense. What are we thinking for defense?
If he is dinosaur-esque, I think that gives him a little more defense just because he's somewhat reptilian or something like that.
He'll have scales or just really tough skin. In general, it would take a lot of force to pierce the skin. So I think it is that is the one thing we can boost it for is that dinosaur quote-unquote background, yeah. So it would definitely be higher than your average. I don't know, maybe, what are you thinking, Andrew?
7. I was giving it a 7.
7 was my first thought too.
I was going 7, but I felt like that was just a little too low, so I was leaning towards 8 for
That's
defense.
why I wasn't saying anything. I kind of wanted to go 8, but 8 seems a little high.
Yeah, but it's got the skin, which gives it a big buff, I think. And swimming around all day, it's going to have a lot of muscle. I think the only thing that could drop me down to a 7 would be that it most likely has a lot of vulnerable points that wouldn't be as strong as the body, like the fins.
I was going to say the fins are probably a weak point.
And depending on the length of the neck, that would be a weak point.
And how well it can maneuver using it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could be swayed to either 8 or 7.
What do we got, Roger?
I'm still going to go with the 7.
I like the 7. I really do.
All right. We've been swayed towards the 7. Now let's talk mobility. I definitely think this is where Nessie will peak.
I think Nessie, I almost want to give it like a 9, just because I think this thing moves pretty fast.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Even if especially if it's using like underground, water pathways and whatnot. I think this thing's flying, and if it can evade, pretty much any sightings or any, however many people have gone out to try and find it as well as it can.
And it's built in a way for maneuverability with 4 fins. So
Yeah. So if it's still, and also if it's running on land, it can only be faster in the water too. So
Oh, yeah. And I mean, when it does run on land, it's only seen for like a little bit until it hits the water and it's just gone.
yeah.
So I like the 9. I think that's fair. And now let's hop into HP. I'm thinking it's going to be high, maybe a little upper middle class with HP.
Kind of like a 7.
Kind of like a 7.
It's a 7.
Alright. I don't want to go like 8 or 9 just because obviously the fins.
I
and
think
then just
I think
looking
the
at-
reason I'm keeping it a 7, and I don't think I want to go any higher, is just because as soon as you chop off that neck, it's dead. So I don't think there's really.
It's also hurting the fins. It's not. You take away its mobility, so it's kind of just a sitting duck at that point. So,
Yeah, almost literally. Yeah.
Yeah. So are we thinking lower than a 7 possibly?
I could go down to 6, but
I'd still give it a 7.
the other thing is it is large. So even if you do cut off that neck, you got to use a lot of force.
Yeah. All right, then we'll sit with the 7 on HP. And what are we thinking for stealth? I think it's going to be pretty high for stealth. Taking its speed to account, using the tunnels, and obviously it has only been seen a handful of times. And it's not obvious. Well, I guess it is kind of obvious when it's seen.
Well, the only time it was seen was that I know of were the photograph, which wasn't actually true, so
Yeah.
it wasn't seen there, and then the running past the couple on land. So other than that, I never know.
And if they are doing these sonar things and it's not seen on there, whether or not it's real or not is, I think, aside the point right now.
Yeah.
It's obviously avoiding sonar and stuff, so I think that it would have high stealth.
Yeah, I'm not ready to give it a 10.
No.
Thinking more like a 7 or an 8.
I was thinking 8.
I
for
was
sure.
also thinking 8 going into it. So we're thinking 8.
8's a pretty solid ground for that one.
All right, now before we hop into the main event of the show, let's do a quick stat breakdown refresher. So for Nessie, intelligence 6, power 6, defense 7, mobility 9, HP 7, stealth 8. What kind of class would we attribute to Nessie? It's definitely odd because it's got a tank build, but it's also super sneaky.
It's like,
That's hard.
yeah.
In a way, I want to go like kind of like a thief, but more like a hunter.
I don't know if it's a hunter.
But the tank part in the HP is what throws me off.
It's almost like if you had an assassin that was wearing heavy armor
That's what
all
I
the
was gonna
time.
say.
Yeah, so a heavy armored assassin. All right, and let's hop into the Oklahoma Octopus stats. We have intelligence 7, power 8, defense 8, mobility 6, HP 7, stealth 5.
I think this one's a little more upfront on it. This one's
yeah.
definitely a warrior,
Oh yeah, it's got that low stealth and the low mobility, so it's definitely like an upfront tank warrior, almost like a paladin.
Yeah, it's like a shield bearer or something.
And with that out of the way, let's talk environment.
I was thinking, so obviously this is going to take place in probably a lake, because
Yeah.
this is where both of them are. I was wondering if we even want to introduce a land aspect, or if it's just literally walls around the center of a lake.
We could put an island on there, but I mean, the octopus, if it even goes on the land, it's not going to be there for very long. Same thing with Nessie. So we can put it in the map, but I don't think it's going to play much of an effect into the
I almost
fight.
want it to just be in the background, or it's on an edge or something.
Yeah, we'll just have open water and then Kame House sitting over in the corner. And then, are we thinking underground passageways?
Well, if it's all water, I don't think there would be any area for underground.
Well, I think there'd obviously
It
be
was-
a ground.
No, yeah. I'm talking more giant circle of walls so they can't go onto the mainland. But it's still, water, and then down below there's probably some whatever rocky or sand bottom, and then I don't know, do we want to go underground pathways?
I think, obviously, stat breakdown. Nessie's a little lower in the stats.
But he's
So-
a little faster overall.
Yeah, so it'd almost be giving
But part of
Nessie
that-
a small handicap.
Part of that mobility is because of the tunnels, so it's almost like we
Yeah,
kind of need.
we also gave it for his build too.
And its stealth. We also gave it the tunnels. So I almost feel like we should put the tunnels in.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more it's kind of part of his stat breakdown. So
All right, so we have a lake, tunnel system underneath, Kame House in the corner. What are we thinking about this fight? And before we hop into the fight, this fight is brought to you in part by our Patreon.
hey, our Patreon. So in case you guys didn't notice, between the last episode and this one, Easter rolled by. And we did a special episode on a certain cryptid or cryptid adjacent creature. And if you wanted to listen to that, all you'd have to do is subscribe to our Patreon. It's only $3 for the one tier we've got. That also gives you access to our Discord and the after hours stuff. It gives you access to our Discord and the after hours that we are filming or recording the first one of after this episode.
And any future special cryptid breakdowns we do.
We do want to do a D&D. We want to do some streaming. I think all three of us want to stream at some point. So maybe even we stream an episode. Who knows?
And it's not necessary, but we definitely appreciate the support. And the cryptids we do on there won't come into play with the main series. So you're not really missing out on much. They won't affect what we do here. This will always be free. This is what we enjoy.
It's just
doing.
bonus stuff for anyone that wants to give us money. That's really all it is.
And you enjoy listening to us, of course. You want to support the
Yes,
show.
yes. I don't think anyone's going to pay us money to not like us. I don't know.
Yeah. So if you want to support us on there, go ahead. I'll leave the link in the show notes. But if you don't want to do that and you still want to support the show, there's many ways to do that. We'll cover that in the end. But with our little ad
Sponsor
break
out of the way.
sponsor, let's hop into the serious talk of the night. I'm just going to throw it out there to get the discussion started. Definitely the Oklahoma Octopus has the favor.
He does.
I think going into this, I was really in Nessie's favor just because he was a little bit more well known. But I'm with you on the fact that I think Oklahoma Octopus kind of rips him apart.
See, I was swayed a lot of the time. First, like you, Andrew, I was going in, fucking Nessie's got this. Easy dub. Nessie's going to destroy. Then, I look into the Oklahoma Octopus. I do my octopus research. Wish I would have done more dinosaur research for Nessie, but I didn't. It seemed cut and dry. And so then I was Oklahoma Octopus team. But now that we have the map and we've done the stat breakdown, I think Nessie still has a good favor in this fight. With Nessie's stealth and usage of the tunnels that she would be familiar with.
I was in Nessie's favor at the beginning. I didn't know the length of the octopus, but now that I know that, I don't know if Nessie has a good chance in this, but I still think Oklahoma Octopus has the bigger toll in this because of just his strength and his size and everything like that.
The biggest thing for me is the tentacles with the suction cups. I think the grip on that alone, just if it gets one on Nessie, she's kind of going down at that point. Just because as long as it gets a good enough grip, it's going to be able to maneuver itself to any weak point it needs, and then Nessie's kind of screwed.
Yeah, and as long as you got one on there with that strength on it, you just got to get another one. And then all the other ones are on there and you're good.
No matter where Nessie goes, even if it goes into one of those tunnels, it's
It's
following.
like-
It's literally on.
And the shitty thing that wasn't on Nessie's side is her offense capabilities. You have the Oklahoma Octopus who has the strong beak and these tentacles with the suction cups, which are just devastating. Where Nessie just really has her bite. Because what are you going to be able to do offensively with flippers? Now I know killer whales bat small prey around to disorient them, and a lot of fish do that to disorient other fish to get them. But Nessie's not going to be able to bat around the Oklahoma octopus. It's already got her beat in size. And like you said, like, all it takes is a couple tentacles to get a good grip, and then it could just rip Nessie to shreds, like, quite literally.
Yeah, I think if Nessie went enough, power-wise, I think if it like just plowed right into the Oklahoma octopus, it probably could take it out enough times out of 10 to give it a fighting chance in this argument. But I still think the Oklahoma octopus has a little too much going for it at this point.
My big thing with Nessie winning would be attacks to the body, because obviously attacks to the tentacles aren't really going to do anything.
Yeah.
Unless they can somehow get a hold of one and then chop it off and keep doing that for all it's...
Yeah. I just think she'd be too overwhelmed if she did go with that strategy by the other tentacles. Because of the amount of tentacles it has, you lose one, you still got 7 more. But yeah, I think just chomping at the body or the head or going for the eyes would be her best bet.
I think if she knew how to attack the head first, she's going to win. Then again, we still gave the Oklahoma octopus defense because of the fact that it has the tentacles and it has so much range with all of them. So,
well, we gave the tunnels. So if Nessie just was able to stick to the tunnels, sit in there, and then
she does have high stealth.
Wait for the Oklahoma octopus to put its tentacle down there and then cut it off and go through another one and have it do the same thing and just keep repeating that process.
It could stealth this fight out. It could slow stealth it, kind of like a few of our other high stealth contenders. But like those other high stealth contenders, I don't think either of them won that just because it takes a little too long and it's not the most viable.
Unless you're very...
Well, this one, the only thing is that this one kind of gives it the environmental advantage, whereas the other two, it didn't really have that. This one has the tunnels where it can actually hide, pop out of one and go to the other.
The environment definitely played into a big factor in this fight. It's just hard to compete with such overwhelming power. It's like if you had a Bigfoot, but it just had a bunch of fucking arms.
Yeah.
Like 4 arms. Nobody would be able to stop it. It'd be able to cover too much range too quickly.
Yeah, it's like Bigfoot if it had 5 arms and all of them were like the length of a house,
that arm also had many arms that had the grip.
Yeah, they also had smaller arms that were grabbing on with the grip strength of like 20 men,
And I think even with Nessie's defense, while it is high, the suction cups definitely would just tear through.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the large octopi that is real that we've recorded have the strength, or let me double check, I don't want to get this wrong. Yeah, they have the strength of a 200-pound man, just one suction cup. And so you have just lines and lines of suction cups on 8 tentacles. It's just way too overwhelming. Then you take the size and strength factor of this and then compare it, the strength of what each individual suction cup would be like the strength of like 6 200-pound men. 3 200-pound men per suction cup. So I think the Oklahoma octopus definitely takes the victory over Nessie, as much as it pains me to say.
Yeah, hopefully Nessie can stand up to someone else maybe in the future, but for this episode, officially, Oklahoma octopus is taking home the belt.
Yep, he joins the upper echelon of cryptids we've covered so far. But who knows, will it be able to compete with, if we do eventually bring it up, some of the other competitors or reach their level that they've accomplished so far.
Yeah.
But that, we'll have to wait for a few months. And with this fight coming to a close, let's talk credibility for these cryptids. Let's start with you, Andrew. Since now we have a new clock, well, I guess it would still be the same, but it's been so long since we've done.
Yeah, let's just reset it. I'll start.
I think I was the last one because I started with Go Man, I'm pretty sure. So either way, I'm out.
Well, Andrew, we'll save you for last, actually. Since you're the least credible here, I feel like this is going to be pretty obvious. We'll start with the Oklahoma octopus. I'm going to call bullshit real quick. My main problem is that it didn't really get popular until the Lost Tapes, which we grew up with Lost Tapes, watching Lost Tapes, all of us. And even a few years back, we watched Lost Tapes, like all of them, again, together. And they're fake as fuck. Like, obviously, it's not real.
All the Lost Tapes are staged. So.
Like, back in the day, you think they're real, and it's creepy as fuck. And
you get to some episodes like the Dover Demon and all that, and you're like,
the vampire. I could not watch the vampire episode alone.
we had to watch it together, and even then, both of us were like,
together in the daylight.
Yeah.
And it was still terrifying. But now, you look back, obviously they're cheesy as fuck. Yeah. Not very well put together.
The one that we referenced in this episode is insanely cheesy, and you already know that they plotted out, like, the whole thing way beforehand.
Like, it's probably one of the worst Lost Tapes episodes, to be honest.
Probably the best one would be the Lizard Man episode. That was an interesting one.
I'm going to have to refresh. But we'll talk about
This isn't a Lost Tapes episode.
After hours. But yeah, I call bullshit on the Oklahoma octopus. One, man-made lakes. So how the fuck would this thing even get in there? Like, that just makes no sense. And I don't know, like I said, Lost Tapes really brought it to popularity, and I never heard of it until you brought it up to me, Roger, and the Lost Tapes, of course. So I really can't attribute anything to the Oklahoma octopus.
How about the other one?
We'll do a separate round.
Oh, okay.
Well, I did a little more research on this one, and so thinking about it, there's organisms that can adapt. If they're from saltwater, they can adapt to freshwater. So I can see how this thing could probably adapt. As for like flesh eating and all that, I don't think it's flesh eating, because it's more of octopus are more vegetarian. So it wouldn't go eating all humans and everything like that. So I think it could be in there, but it's not drowning humans or anything.
And I mean, that's definitely something you don't typically see a change of, going from vegetarian to whatever.
Human seeking.
Yeah, I guess it's more of like a survivability thing. If it wants to survive, that's how it would. Yeah. But it's still kind of...
And I mean, changing diet like that would completely change your body structure and everything too.
It's a man-made lake, so it can't be that big. So if there's actually something you think they'd be able to go in there and try and find it.
Yeah, and definitely, like, if it is this size, I think it'd have to eat way less, so it'd be way smaller than it actually is, because to sustain a diet to stay that size, I don't think that's possible for something that big.
I was going to bring that up when I talked about it, but I think that it being that big... Okay, well, we already know that I'm not the, no believability on this one. This is literally just a story for all the people that felt that little, piece of grass in the water or whatever brush their leg, and they're like, oh shit, what was that? Yeah, no, this is fake. But I was going to bring up the fact that if it was as big as you say it is, there would literally be no living organism that still was alive in the lake left, after... a week, 2 weeks or something like that? The amount it would have to eat to consume to be able, even if there was people actively at this lake or whatever lake, I still don't think it would be able to sustain that amount of size.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the biggest problem with very large cryptids, especially ones that are like stuck in a lake, and being their size is just not very feasible.
Yeah, I think larger cryptids really need either some government organization constantly feeding them, or it needs some open wilderness or the ocean. Yeah, some large
The thing about
expanse.
this one is that it's a man-made lake, so there's no water going into it, which means there's no fish or anything else going into there. So
exactly.
That's why it's
Exactly. Even if there's any
put in for maybe a fishing event or things like that, or just to keep the ecosystem.
I think they put in, for man-made lakes, they put in a lot of fish that they kind of ship in just because they want people to fish in lakes and stuff. But
all right, and with the Oklahoma octopus credibility out of the way, let's hop into the Loch Ness monster. Let's start with you, Roger.
Gonna be honest, I'm thinking this one's a little faker, because it's just no one's seen it. And so with the whole of they're trying to do the government thing of oh yeah, we're gonna find proof of it. People have already debunked it. It could be, I think I've heard it could be like a big eel or a big catfish.
I've heard a lot of big eel stories.
There's possibilities, but I don't think it's the way we say it is. It's either a big eel, big catfish, something like that.
Andrew, resident skeptic.
Yeah, resident skeptic. No surprise to anybody, doesn't believe in Nessie either. I think that overall, it's just not, kind of the same as the octopus. It's not really sustainable. That it's not even really feasible that there would be one of it alive for however long it is anyway, especially if it dates back to the 500 BC. How's this one organism still alive and there's not more?
Well, there's something, what about this? There was some shark that I read about that lived to be 500 years old. So this thing could live.
That got it up to 0 BC, and now we still got 2,000 years to go.
That's a shark. It's not this.
That's also a shark.
But I still can't believe that.
I've got no credit in this one either, for sure. Just because Water ones are more like a creepy story that you could tell people, like, oh, it's gonna get you.
Don't go too far in the water. You're gonna
But
run
you
into
think
Nessie.
about it logically, and there's very, very little actual evidence of anything that large being in any sort of lake, anything inland from the ocean.
All right, cool. Time to play devil's advocate here. Let's do some callbacks. First, let's jump to the Dobar Coup episode. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but I brought up the story of the Dobar Coup and Nessie crossing paths. And it crossed paths with two young Nessie creatures. So there are more than just one Nessie, if we are to attribute anything to that story. Now, that covers your how the fuck would it live this long? There's got to be more than one. Now, done playing devil's advocate. I am going to be a little bit, because I do believe in it more than you guys do. But I have some gripes with it. Obviously, a lot of my gripes with cryptids come to a lot of fucking media attention and pop culture attention. It takes away from the credibility because everybody wants a piece of that pie. Look at Bigfoot. Arguably one of the most well-known popular cryptids to date. There are so many fucking sightings. It's ridiculous. I hate it so much. I believe in Bigfoot to a certain extent. And I think all that its popularity really hurts any kind of credibility that you bring forth most of the time. Just because it's so popular, everybody wants to be the one to see Bigfoot. Everybody wants their sighting to be heard.
So you think the same thing with Nessie?
I think a lot of that, yeah. I think the pop culture aspect, and even Scotland has taken charge of creating popularity for this creature to bring in money. There's incentive to do so, and I think it really hurts.
Are we going to also, just kind of as a closing thing on Nessie anyway, because it seems pretty obvious that you believe in it a little more, but not as, strongly. No. Are we going to bring up Tessie or any sort of
we will get adjacent, there one day.
Okay, any sort of adjacent creature that's...
Yeah, it's...
kind of mimicking...
Its abominable snowman-esque cousin.
Yeah.
I want to cover that later.
Okay.
We'll cover that another time.
Okay.
It'll have to do with the theme of this season.
Gotcha.
But, no, so I do believe in it a little bit. I do not think it's the cryptid that everybody thinks it does. Going back to the sustainability part, there's no feasible way that Nessie could sustain itself the way it is. My theory is that it's not even close to the size everybody claims. I think a lot of claims are bullshit. I think the child-size Nessies that the Dobar Coup came across in the story are probably the full-grown Nessie. Obviously, being this size, having it lasted this long, it scaled down a lot. Like, look at a lot of the creatures today. Back years and years and years ago, they were way bigger because there was a lot more environment, a lot more prey to hunt, a lot more ground to cover.
It was also a lot hotter and the earth was going through some shit.
Yeah, that too. So I think it is scaled down dramatically. Like, if there is an actual Nessie, I think it'd be just way smaller. But that's the only way I can attribute it. That's the way I like to think. And a little bit of credibility that I also see coming from it are that there are research groups that are going out. Scientists, people that have studied this stuff. That gives a little bit of credibility. I also think they're kind of just fucking crazy and hoping to break new research in this field. But I still think it deserves a little bit of credit for that. So I do think it's real, but I don't think it's the cryptid everybody wants to parade it around as it is. And
all right.
Yeah, but those are just my views on the matter. I don't know how you guys feel about that theory.
Well, still don't believe in it. That's all I'm going to say.
The whole research thing for me is that I think it's still just the government trying to kind of be like, oh yeah, this we're looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
But
just
we're just gonna say, oh, it could be this, so that the other people are like, oh well, no, it still exists.
I think it's
they
just
get more popularity from it.
I think it's just to hook in more people to come to Scotland.
Just a money scheme from the Scottish government.
It's just more
those assholes.
Scotland's like, oh, the Nessie thing's getting a little old. Let's throw another bone into the whatever. But yeah, no, I think that's got pretty much nothing to do with it. So.
All right, and with that out of the way, let's get to the boring stuff now that the episode's pretty much over.
It's the closing remarks, not the boring stuff. People want to know this, especially if they like us.
Well, if they made it to this far, I think they'd like to know.
Yeah, all right, so we've got an email. If you want to email us, that's pretty much the best way to get in contact with us right now.
At most, it'll take me a day to see your email. And I pretty much run the email. If you guys want to access, let me know. If you want to respond to any of the fans. Because I do tag it, sincerely Matt, so they know who's responding.
Matt has access to a lot of our social media. He's
a lot
cryptid heavy guy.
All of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so email is 100% the best way. If you want to direct something towards any of us, throw our names in. I'm Matt.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Roger.
So just throw our names in there, and I always let them see the email, let them know about it, so they'll definitely see it. I'll make them respond to it, and so we'll get your message. Our email is cryptidversuscryptid@gmail.com. That is
CRYPTID vs CRYPTID @gmail.com.
okay. And another form of contact is our Twitter, which is very inactive because we have 3 followers.
Hey, that's 2 more than we had last time.
Yeah,
That's
well,
true.
we know the 2 others, so I don't know if that really counts.
Either way, we do have a Twitter. It's probably not going to blow up anytime soon, but
No.
one of these days it might. Hey,
When it
just
does,
follow
we'll
us on
pretend like we know nobody.
it. Yeah. Anyway,
But that is Cryptid versus on Twitter, CRYPTIDVS. If you want to follow us, the more followers we get, the more active we'll be on it. I'll make them have access to it so they can tweet stuff out too.
me or Roger will probably take hold of that as soon as more people actually tweet us or tag us in anything.
Yeah. And with that, is there anything else we want to drop in?
We already did the Patreon. There's one more form. We have a Discord, a Patreon,
Well, while you figured that out,
a Gmail.
if you enjoy the show and you want to support us, you can't support us financially, that's cool. We get it. It is what it is. You can share our podcast with your friends and family. You know, we need exposure. We love exposure. We get more fans. We love it. It's what keeps us going.
Hey, this podcast right now is kind of like a small cryptid following, just a local thing. We want to get it out there big. We want to become a Bigfoot type.
We want to be #1 fiction podcast in the United States.
That would be crazy. And if we got to that point, I think I'd shit my pants literally on mic.
I'll shit my pants when we do get on the leaderboards for the for the fiction podcast. But so definitely share. If you enjoyed the podcast, leave us a 5-star review on Apple or iTunes.
Yeah. If at any point someone leaves a 5-star review, I didn't even say this, but you could just put 5 stars in your email and I'd still read it out. So, I mean, any way you get 5 stars and then you say something as well, I will have to read it out on the podcast.
Exactly. And if you are in the United States, we'll see it. I'm trying to figure out how to see reviews from other countries. Apple is very difficult in the way they do it, and I can really only see the ones from the United States. But I'm trying to find a workaround. So if you live in another country, leave us a review. I'll try and find it. If not, send us an email. But I think that brings us to the conclusion of everything tonight.
Yeah, I think that's it. We're heading out. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
And in the after hours on our Patreon.
If that's one of you guys.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.